If you attempt to plead guilty today, but for some reason I don't accept your plea, then it is possible that your statements today could be used against you later at trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
On November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were brutally murdered in their off-campus home. The case shook the nation, and the arrest of Bryan Kohberger, a criminology student at Washington State University, brought even more shock and disbelief. Kohberger has since been charged with the murders of Kaylee Goncalves, Maddie Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. Here's a deeper look into what happened that night, the investigation that followed, and Kohberger's eventual confession. It was a normal Saturday evening for the 4 University of Idaho students. Kaylee Goncalves and Maddie Mogen had gone out to a local bar before returning home around 1:50 a.m. Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, who were spending the weekend together, were also at home. The house on King Road where the students lived was a quiet, off-campus residence, an unlikely place for such a horrific crime to unfold. Around 4 a.m., Bryan Kohberger is believed to have entered the house, stabbing all 4 victims while they slept. Kaylee and Maddie were found together in one bed on the 3rd floor, while Xana and Ethan were found on the 2nd floor.
Defendant entered the residence, went to the 3rd floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogen and Kaylee Gonzalez.
The scene was gruesome, with evidence of overkill. Some victims had been stabbed multiple times, and the brutality of the crime left investigators shocked. The police investigation initially provided few clues. The killer used a large knife, which was later identified as likely being a military-style K-bar knife. No definitive leads were available until a surviving roommate, who had been sleeping through the attack, gave a key description of the killer. This provided crucial evidence, but it took several weeks for the police to track down the culprit. The investigation into the murders initially raised more questions than answers. There were no immediate suspects, and the police were left with very little physical evidence. Just 6 shell casings from a .22 caliber handgun, which were unrelated to the actual crime. It wasn't until surveillance footage from around the crime scene was reviewed that investigators began to piece together a timeline. In the early morning hours of November 13th, a white Hyundai Elantra was seen driving around the area near the student's house multiple times. This vehicle would become a key piece of evidence in the investigation. After tracking the car's movements, the investigators found it linked to Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology student living just 10 miles away in Pullman, Washington. Kohberger had been under investigation for weeks, and his car was seen near the crime scene multiple times in the days leading up to the murders. His phone records, too, placed him near the scene around the time of the attack, further solidifying the connection. The most damning piece of evidence came when police discovered a sheath for a knife near one of the victims' bodies. This sheath contained DNA that was later identified as Kohberger's. The DNA match was a crucial turning point in the case, linking him to the murders. On December 30th, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was arrested in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania after a nationwide manhunt. His arrest came after a detailed investigation that pieced together his movements, cell phone data, and surveillance footage. Kohberger, a criminology PhD student at Washington State University, had been studying criminal behavior and may have used his knowledge to carry out a planned attack.
Jumping ahead, the end of June of that year, the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University.
When Kohberger was arrested, the public was left shocked. How could someone studying criminal justice commit such a horrific crime? Kohberger's arrest was widely covered in the media, and it seemed like the case was about to be solved. However, questions still remained about his motive and whether he had a personal connection to the victims. As the trial moved forward, Bryan Kohberger had spoken out about the murders. During his court appearances, Kohberger had maintained his innocence, and his defense team had argued that there is not enough evidence to convict him. However, in a shocking turn, Kohberger confessed to the killings in a statement to the police.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being?
In his confession, Kohberger did not offer a clear explanation for why he carried out the murders.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
He admitted to planning the attack, but claimed that the motivation behind the killings was not entirely clear.
Did you, on or about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being?
Yes.
And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being?
Yes.
November 13th, 2022, again in Latah County, Idaho. Did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being?
Yes.
Kohberger also stated that he had stalked the victims for weeks and that the attack was not impulsive, but premeditated. Despite his confession, Kohberger's defense team continues to assert that the case against him is not as solid as the prosecution claims. The families of the victims have been deeply affected by the tragic murders of their loved ones. In recent interviews, they have openly expressed their grief and pain. Kaylee's parents, Steve and Christy Gonzalez, alongside Maddie's family, have shared the overwhelming sorrow of losing their children. However, both families have come to a difficult consensus. They are now in support of a plea deal for Bryan Kohberger.
We support the plea agreement 100%. While we know there are some who do not support it, we ask that they respect our belief that this is the best outcome possible for the victims, their families, and the state of Idaho.
The anguish caused by the murders has only been compounded by the fact that Kohberger was studying criminology, a field focused on understanding violent crime. This added a layer of confusion and disbelief for the families as they dealt with how someone with such knowledge could carry out such a brutal and premeditated attack. Yet, as time has passed, the families have chosen to prioritize the pursuit of justice over prolonging the pain of a lengthy trial. The case has also sparked wider conversations about the nature of violent crime and the criminal justice system in the U.S. Many have questioned whether Kohberger used his criminology background to plan the murders. While some continue to call for a full trial, others, including the victims' families, believe a plea deal may be the most effective way to bring closure. As the case moves forward, the families are still hopeful that the truth behind the murders will be revealed. They understand that while the investigation has answered some questions, there are still many wounds to heal. By supporting the plea deal, the families believe they are helping bring an end to the legal process while honoring the memory of their loved ones. They are determined to ensure that Kohberger faces accountability for his actions, allowing them to move forward with their lives, however difficult that may be.